Guys, today we're taking a look at the Sta-Tite 2-piece Glock stainless steel guide rod from btguiderods.com. I'm going to do a review of the rod itself and then a short comparison between the factory Glock guide rod and spring and the Glockmeister stainless steel guide rod. First of all, I want to thank Bill from btguiderods.com. He contacted me through YouTube and asked if I'd like to review his product, which I greatly appreciate. It's the first manufacturer that's contacted me and offered to do a review, so it's kind of a big thing for my channel. So now that's out of the way. Let's go over some quick initial impressions. When I received the guide rod and I took it out, I was actually surprised by how much the guide rod actually looks like the factory Glock rod. This is the factory Glock rod here. And if you compare them, it has a similar button end. The Sta-Tite rod uses no bushing, so they're similar in that way. If you like the OEM look, you pretty much could throw one of these in your Glock, and it would be hard to tell the difference. If you looked at this from a distance, you'd be hard pressed to tell the difference between the two rods. Let's talk a little bit about the coating. It has a black oxide coating. It's polished first, from what I understand, and then it's coated in black oxide. So it does have a little bit of inherent lubricity to it. It's extremely slick, and it does function really well. It cycles really smoothly. I haven't noticed any shift in it when cycling, like the first Glockmeister rod I had trouble with. When I would manually cycle the action, the button at the end would actually shift, causing the slide to hang up a little bit. I wasn't sure that that wouldn't cause a problem if I would have fired that rod, but I did return my original Glockmeister rod and got a replacement which hasn't exhibited the same problem. Let's talk about the construction of it. The rod itself is made of 17-4 stainless steel, and the button is machined from 300 series stainless steel bar stock. Because there is a difference in hardness between the rod and the button, it's extremely unlikely that you'll ever strip the threads out through repeated assembly and disassembly. Also, the threads are mollied, which also aids to the durability of the threads and the unlikelihood of them actually ever stripping out. For sake of comparison, I got the Sta-Tite rod with the factory Glock spring. So these are all factory Glock springs all the way through, all three rods. Let's talk about a little bit the way that I tested them. I put 200 rounds through each of these rods. They all have exactly the same round count on them, so I think this is a pretty fair comparison. I put 100 rounds through each in my Glock 23, and then we put these guide rods in my buddy's Glock 23 and put 100 rounds through each rod in his gun. So each rod here has 200 rounds through it. And I'm happy to report that we had no fail to fire, fail to eject, no jamming. We had no problems with any of the rods, so that's good. A good point for all of them. Let's talk some more about the construction of it. It doesn't use a bushing, and if you check their site and you read up on the rod, due to the construction, it has 3 times the normal amount of thread engagement. So not only does it not use a bushing, but it does not require any Loctite, which is nice. They sell a purpose-made assembly and disassembly tool, which I didn't request one to review, which in hindsight might have been a mistake. It would have been nice to show you guys the function of that tool and possibly get a better look at the threads and the inside of the construction. So that was my fault for not requesting one. But yeah, as I said, there was no problems at all at the range with any of the guide rods. I'd like to talk a little bit about the weight. of both of these rods, of both the Glockmeister and the Sta-Tite rod. They are similar in weight. I think the Glockmeister rod might be slightly heavier, but that could be just subjective to the way I'm feeling them in my hands here. I'm going to pick up a digital scale here to aid in my reviews. I don't have one yet, so all I can do is tell you what I'm feeling. But I think the Glockmeister rod might be slightly heavier, but I can't say for sure. I do like the added weight that you get with a stainless rod. It adds just that little bit of extra weight to the muzzle end, and the gun just feels better with that little bit of extra weight there. The Glock is a fairly light pistol, the Glock 23, which is what I tested all three of these rods, and it's fairly light, and adding that extra little bit of weight to the muzzle end helps out. The Glockmeister rod does use a bushing, and from what I understand, using a bushing does affect the cycle rate of the spring. How much, I'm not exactly sure. As I said, I didn't have any problems with it, but I like the fact that this keeps the spring rate within factory specifications pretty much. Let's talk about the actual physical durability. Obviously, the reliability so far has been the same through the round count I put them through, but I have to say that the Sta-Tite rod, as you'll see in the macro shots, is holding up extremely well. They all have the same round count, so I think this is a pretty fair comparison as far as the actual physical durability. There's only some light wear actually on the edge here of the black oxide coating. It's really held up well. There's not really many scratches at all on it. Where if you compare that to the Glockmeister rod, you can see there is a lot of scratching on the finish and around the edges. Overall, the Sta-Tite rod is holding up better as far as the actual physical appearance and the durability of it. If you look at the factory rod, you can see it is chipping a lot, flaking around the edges. The actual button is a little loose. There's a little bit of movement on it, but they all function reliably, so can't really knock them. Let's talk a little bit about the price of the rod. The Sta-Tite is actually $40 with the factory Glock spring. The Glock 23, the Glockmeister stainless steel rod for the Glock 23 with the factory spring is $24. So there is a large price difference here. I think for this rod it is a fair price, because it just seems like more thought has been put into the actual design of the rod. And like I said, I also like the fact that it appears to nearly be an OEM rod. There's just more thought put into it. You have the slick coating on it, the fact that you have no bushing and no need for Loctite on the end. It's just, overall, I think it's a nicer product. It does cost more, but over the life of your pistol, that extra few dollars really isn't a big deal if you consider what you get for the money. The Glockmeister rod is a fine product. It does function reliably. I had no problems with it, but I just aesthetically and as far as the design, I prefer actually the Sta-Tite rod. The Sta-Tite rod is the guide rod that's in my Glock. That's the one I'm carrying now. I'm actually going to give the Glockmeister rod to my buddy. But yeah, as far as the cost, you have to decide whether you want to pay the extra money. But I do think that it is a better design, and I do think it's a higher quality product than the Glockmeister rod. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just of a higher quality.